Thank you and welcome to Farmers Markets. This webinar is one in a series exploring healthy community strategies that's presented by ChangeLab Solutions and hosted by the Network for a Healthy California. My name is Heather Wooten. I'm a Senior Planner and Program Director with ChangeLab Solutions, and today we're going to learn about one of my favorite topics, which is farmers markets. We're also joined today by Roseanne Stevenson, who's a Program Development Specialist with the Network for a Healthy California, and Alan Moy, who's the Director of Community-Based Programs with the Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association. Both Roseanne and Alan will be talking about strategies for increasing access to markets through programs and outreach. In case you're new to ChangeLab Solutions, we're a nonprofit that partners with state and local leaders to create healthy communities using the tools of law and policy. We do that through research, resource development, and trainings. Today we're talking about 4 steps to develop successful farmers markets for low-income communities. Step 1 is engaging with community partners to identify opportunities and champions. Step 2 is assessing information about your local community so that your farmers market strategies fit local needs. Here we'll also discuss how to identify markets that are located in locations eligible for SNAP interventions. Step 3 is developing and implementing strategies to enhance access. We'll learn more through a profile of the Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association and hear about resources available from the Network for a Healthy California. Step 4 is ensuring local policies like general plans and zoning maximize farmers market benefits. And of course, at each step I'll show you some key tools and resources. As a reminder, we'll be taking questions via the chat window as we go. So if you have a burning question about farmers markets, feel free to enter it into the chat window. But first things first, just what is a farmers market? We have a poll that's popping up, and I'd invite you to fill out the poll with what you think is the most accurate definition of a farmers market. Okay, it looks like the most popular response was the first one, a market with food, crafts, and flowers. But before I give you the official right answer, I should start by noting that farmers markets look different in different communities. They can be year-round or seasonal, indoors or out, daily or only once a month. But all farmers markets share a common focus on providing fresh, local produce and fostering a direct connection between the people who grow food and those who eat it. And here in California, we have a lot of markets. This map shows farmers markets by region. As you can see, markets flourish in our urban coastal communities, but they also appear in virtually every corner of the state. This map is produced by the USDA National Farmers Market Directory. That directory is designed to provide members of the public with convenient access to information about U.S. farmers market locations, directions, operating times, product offerings, and accepted forms of payment. Market information included in the directory is voluntary, and it's self-reported by market managers and representatives from state farmers markets agencies and associations, so it's not always complete or perfectly up to date. But let's go back to our definitions. Farmers markets are an example of a specific type of food retailing known as direct marketing, in which producers sell directly to consumers. Because farmers themselves sell at farmers markets, there's a practical limit to the distance food travels before reaching consumers. This is what makes farmers markets different from other types of markets that sell food, where vendors are reselling products that they might purchase from farmers, wholesalers, or from distributors. While these kinds of markets, like produce markets or flea markets, can be important sources of healthy food for communities, here we're focusing on farmers markets as a unique community asset with their own issues and needs. In California, state law limits the definition of a certified farmers market to markets where farmers sell agricultural products grown in California that they've grown themselves, or processed products made from agricultural products that they've grown. That means within a certified market, no crafts or T-shirt sales, but it could be as few as one certified farmer or as many as hundreds. So long as the produce meets certain quality requirements, produce sold at California certified farmers markets are actually exempt from grade, size, labeling, packing, and other similar requirements for fruits, nuts, and vegetables. And that provision allows farmers to sell products that they might not otherwise be able to sell and gives consumers the ability to buy fresh produce without additional costs from transportation and distribution. There are approximately 700 certified farmers markets and approximately 2,200 certified producers in California. And about just over half are year-round markets, which is incredible. It really shows you the bounty we have in our state, and the rest are seasonal. In a typical year, the majority of seasonal markets operate between April and October. To learn more about how California defines certified markets, check out ChangeLab Solutions fact sheet, California Certified Farmers Markets and Farm Stands, a closer look at state law. We know farmers markets provide an opportunity for local growers to sell directly to consumers. But what about farmers markets makes them so important for healthy communities? In some ways, this is kind of an instinctual response. Farmers markets provide an appealing environment for introducing customers to new types of locally grown fruits and vegetables, as well as new methods of preparation. Consumers are able to make direct connections with producers and gain a better understanding of where their food comes from. In fact, it is this personal relationship between producer and consumer that motivates many consumers to shop at farmers markets. And here, this map, which is provided in the CDC's State Indicator Report on Fruits and Vegetables, reveals which states are eating enough produce and which are falling behind. Although I have to say, even California and Oregon at the greatest number of times per day are only at just under 2 times per day, which I think we could all agree could stand to go up. However, the report says a number of states with the highest consumption of fruits and vegetables have more environmental supports. For example, adults in Oregon and California eat more vegetables than adults in other states. They are also among the highest in fruit consumption. Oregon and California are also above the national score on access to healthier food retailers, farmers market density, and farmers markets' acceptance of nutrition assistance program benefits. It seems like having more markets around might make eating more fruits and vegetables more accessible and more appealing. But what about this commonly heard idea that markets are more expensive than grocery stores? Okay, what do you all think? We're going to take another poll, and you can feel free to submit your thoughts. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. It looks like most of you thought this statement was false, although a good chunk of you still thought it was true, and a few were unsure. So although farmers markets are sometimes perceived as being more expensive than conventional grocery stores, it really depends on what types of products you're looking at and if you're looking at products that are in season or not. A series of studies have found that products at farmers markets were consistently less expensive than the same products sold in grocery stores in season. However, whether or not they are more expensive than conventional retailers, farmers markets remain largely inaccessible to low-income shoppers when they do not accept federal food assistance programs like the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or what we call SNAP, formerly known as food stamps. These financial assistance programs not only increase access to fresh, locally grown products for low-income households, they've also been shown to increase consumption of fresh produce. And families who receive these benefits eat more fruits and vegetables after receiving farmers market coupons, which we'll talk about in a little bit with Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association, and they eat more produce than those who do not receive coupons. More often than not, low-income shoppers using federal food assistance also spend their own money at farmers markets, boosting their produce consumption and the local economy at the same time. So let's take another poll. We've just heard about this idea of California certified farmers markets. What do you think? Must they accept SNAP? Is that true or false? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the poll. It's obvious that accepting SNAP at markets improves access for low-income shoppers, so is it a requirement? Almost 70% of you thought that was false, but about 23% thought it was true. It's actually a little bit of a trick question. Here's what the law says. In 2010, the state's Welfare and Institutions Code was amended to require that market operators allow and accommodate food and nutrition service authorized groups to initiate and operate an electronic benefit transfer acceptance system at flea markets, farmers markets, and certified farmers markets. So it doesn't mean that markets are required to accept SNAP, but it does mean that a third party can run the acceptance program, and markets must allow that third party to do so. Local communities can develop zoning and licensing regulations that mirror or enhance the state's requirement, and I'll discuss that more later. The USDA encourages all farmers markets to accept SNAP benefits and provides technical assistance and funding to help them do so. Farmers markets may apply to the USDA's Food and Nutrition Service for a license to accept SNAP benefits. The FNS license will license any eligible retailer. Farmers markets accept SNAP payments for food using the Electronic Benefit Transfer or EBT card, which is a type of debit card. With the move to EBT instead of paper food stamps, retailers must have point-of-sale terminals. A growing number of farmers markets allow shoppers to redeem food stamps electronically for script, which I showed a photo of here on the left-hand side of your screen. Script are usually reusable tokens that can be made from hard-to-counterfeit wood or plastic, and they're offered at a central location and used for market purchases. This publication I've highlighted here, the USDA's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program at Farmers Markets, a how-to handbook, describes the benefits of SNAP and the process for accepting SNAP. And let me tell you, this guide has it all. It's got why to accept SNAP benefits, how to install an EBT system at farmers markets, how to use script to accept SNAP benefits, how to become a SNAP retailer, what equipment is required, and how to make SNAP succeed at farmers markets. And Alan will be talking a little bit more about the Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association's experience with accepting SNAP as we go forward. We've just covered some of the benefits of markets and a little bit about what markets are. How do we find out more about what strategies are best for enhancing access to markets in your community? It's a simple solution in principle that sometimes can be a little challenging in practice. Go ahead and talk to people. There are many different groups and individuals who have a stake in farmers markets, but here are some big categories of people who you probably need to engage. The first is to talk to market managers and operators. This here is a photo of John Silvera, who's the CEO of the Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association, and he's holding up a brochure, a flyer for a new market that they were opening. Market operators are going to be your best connection for understanding what they see as challenges and issues. They are often a direct link to farmers. They'll know what farmers are growing and whether they might be interested in expanding to a new location. And you can also find out if market managers have any questions or concerns about accepting SNAP. Of course, we need to talk to community residents. What are their concerns about how and where farmers markets operate? Do they want to see specific kinds of produce or longer market hours? Community support is always a big part of a successful market, and it's definitely worth it to do this early. And of course, you can talk to farmers. If you can connect directly with farmers through a local farm bureau, your county's agricultural commissioner, or other networks, you will learn a lot about their interests and capacity in growing for and participating in a market. So who else is important to talk to? City planners can play a big role in supporting successful farmers markets. They'll know what local regulations govern markets and where markets are allowed to operate. I'll talk a little bit about how planning policies can support markets later. Talk to your health inspectors. What are they looking for when they regulate markets? Are there operating issues that they require, like locations for restrooms, places to wash hands, sampling rules, etc., that you need to be aware of? And other agencies can be important partners too, like police or transportation and public works, especially if you're proposing a market that might affect street closures or related issues. At this point, we have a scheduled break to take questions. If questions have come in so far, if you'd like to add questions, we can take a moment. If you haven't had any questions yet, we can move forward into our next section. Okay, it looks like you guys are all up to speed on markets, so I'm happy to move forward. Building relationships with stakeholders is an important part of the next step, which is assessing local data to inform your strategy. Lots of different kinds of data can be helpful in drafting farmers market policies. Data about market customers, including existing customers and potential customers, can tell you about what kinds of markets might meet people's needs. Where should they be located? Would a weeknight market work better than a weekend morning market? Surveys and focus groups can help gather this information. Surveys of farmers can help you understand what agricultural products are currently growing and whether they have the capacity and interest in participating in a new market. This survey here is one you can find on the National Farmers Market Coalition website. The Coalition is an amazing resource for farmers market managers and supporters. They have a comprehensive collection of reports and resources. You can search their email listserv archive for questions and ideas, and you can also sign up for the listserv if you want to post a question or just see what issues are on the minds of real market managers from across the country. Just yesterday I was seeing a lot of traffic about people wondering about allowing kids to sell at markets. It's an interesting strategy that might be part of youth development and improving access to healthy food, and market managers were unsure about how to deal with that. Another kind of data you might want to look at is where markets are currently located in your city and who has access to these markets. This is actually a simple map prepared by the San Francisco Public Health Department that shows the location of markets in the city, which are the blue dots, surrounded by half-mile buffers, indicating where people live close enough to easily walk to a market. Taking a look at this map, it may be useful to think about what approaches could promote a more equitable distribution of markets and improve access to markets throughout the city. Maybe there are some barriers that are preventing markets from opening, or maybe markets need incentives to locate in certain areas. If you're interested in mapping markets in your community, the California Federation of Certified Farmers Market website lets you search by city, county, region, or market operator for existing certified markets. And of course, don't forget to look at data about your region's food shed. Where are farmers coming from? What are they growing? What's the seasonality of farmers markets? Understanding a little bit about the food shed can help ground local policies in regional realities. Up next, we'll hear from Roseanne as she talks about some of the tools available from the Network for a Healthy California for assessing whether markets are located in areas eligible for SNAP interventions. And with that, Roseanne, I'll let you begin your section.
Great, thank you, Heather. I'd like to start with how to select a farmer's market to work with. There are several factors to consider in selecting a farmer's market to work with. Is the market neighborhood-based, a place where the community gathers? Does the market have affordable prices of the produce or items? Does the market have a variety of produce items? Is the market accessible by public transportation? This is really important for our low-income SNAP recipients and eligibles and for our senior population. Is the location and hours convenient for folks that work? Is the market family-friendly? A cultural forum? Is there the ability for information dissemination? Is there entertainment at the market? Are there value-added products like nuts, jams, breads? Is there product demonstrations? And is it conducive to nutrition education demonstrations like taste testing? We've been fortunate. Farmers Market is an important part of the California SNAP Ed plan. With the passage of the Healthy, Hungry, Free Kids Act, SNAP Ed funds can now be used to work in farmers markets, which they could, but to do some more expanded approaches with respect to access. For the SNAP Ed program funding, it's important when we're working with farmers markets to look at targeting. So SNAP-Ed farmers markets must be in what are called qualifying census tracts. How do you determine if a site qualifies? One of the primary factor is 50% or more of the population in that census tract needs to be at or below 185% of the federal poverty level. So on your screen are tools to identify qualifying census tracts. One of the primary tools we use is the American Community Survey. We use two data sets from that, data from 2006 through 2010 and 2007 to 2011. And below that is a link, www.census.gov/ACS/www/, and these links are available for you. So you can look at those data sets. But the network has on their website, sorry I keep advancing the slides, the network on their website, which is listed at this link, has those data sets in a way that's more convenient in order to be able to identify sites and qualify sites. So the data is located on the network website at www.cdph.ca.gov/programs/pages/network-LHD-FAP 2014 ASPX. And that link will be available with the slides that will be posted after this, this farmers market webinar. And you need to look at attachment 3 through 8. And this will provide you data by county, by census tract, with the column that provides you with information that yes, this census tract qualifies, or no, it does not qualify. Another way you can check whether or not the farmers market is in a qualifying location is to use the Geographic Information System, or GIS, web link that can be used by all local agencies to qualify a specific site. And that web link is www.cnngis.org. And in this one, you just type in the site address and you will be able to get whether or not it qualifies. There is also a tutorial at this link, so agencies can basically verify the qualifications or not. Technical assistance with qualifying sites can be provided by your assigned program managers for those agencies that are funded by the Network for a Healthy California. Alternative site locations for farmers markets. There are alternative site locations that we've seen in California that should be considered also for SNAP-Ed interventions. We've seen farmers markets at schools. The schools should have 50% or more of the children receiving free and reduced price meals. We've seen them at federal qualifying health clinics, and there's a listing of which FQHCs qualify. Agencies should check with your PM if you're interested in working with clinics. We've seen them in governmental organizations. These would need to qualify again by the census tract in the original methodology I gave you. We've seen them in retail, specifically mall parking lots. Again, they have to be in qualifying low-income census tracts. We've seen them in work sites, WIC offices, CalFresh offices, and at daycare centers. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Heather.
Thanks, Roseanne. That was great. We had a couple of questions come in that we'll be talking about at our next Q&A break. So I want to thank folks who are entering questions and let everybody else know you should feel free to do that as we go along. So accessibility is a big theme when we talk about linking low-income shoppers and farmers markets. But if you unpack that word a little bit, you realize that accessibility has a lot of dimensions. It can include physical access, which means where markets are located. So are markets located in an area that's walkable in your neighborhood, or is it in a park or town center that's easy to get to by public transit? We might think about economic access. Is the market affordable? Does it accept SNAP or offer bonus or coupon incentives? We might think about cultural access. Is there signage in your language? Do vendors sell products that represent your cultural culinary traditions? And we might think about knowledge access. Do I have the skills to prepare what's being sold? To learn more about how one market umbrella organization is working to enhance access to their markets, I'd like to turn it over to Alan Moy with the Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association.
Thank you, Heather. So you've heard a little bit about who we are and what we do. Today I want to focus primarily on our strategy as it regards to making sure our markets are accessible to consumers who are shopping with CalFresh benefits. So we operate 70 farmers markets in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the approach that we have taken is that we want CalFresh to be accepted at every market that we operate. As Heather mentioned, it's not a requirement that every market accept CalFresh, though they do have to make that service available if there is someone who wants to do it. We want to make sure that if we're operating the market that CalFresh is available. So for every market at which we have a market manager, they are equipped with either a swipe terminal, or if we don't have enough terminals available, there's a separate system that they can use to verify transactions and process transactions via a cell phone call. In addition, in order to ensure that our markets are economically accessible to those on CalFresh, we are a participant in the statewide Market Match program that is operated by the nonprofit Roots of Change. So at every market at which we have a market manager, if a CalFresh recipient purchases at least $10 in their script, which for us are plastic tokens, they get at least $10. They get $5 in additional bonus tokens. So those bonus tokens are marked to be used only for fresh fruits and vegetables, and then we allow them one bonus per market per day. So given funding constraints, we're not able to operate this, the market match incentives throughout the year, but we do operate it during the peak months of the season. So this year we're operating it from March through the end of October. And part of the reason that this is important to us is we look back at our history as an organization with operating CalFresh even before it had that term. So on your chart that you see now, you'll see data for a period of time. This is the period in which paper food stamps were available, and they were accessible and could be spent at farmers markets. At the end of 2003, the paper food stamps ended and the new EBT system was started. And as you can see, there was a long drought period in our farmers markets where, because the technology was not yet available, we were not able to really accommodate customers with their EBT cards in the farmers markets. So since then, it's been a long period of rebuilding those connections with the communities. So in 2009, we offered the Market Match incentive for the first time. And as you'll see over the years, we've been seeing steady increases each year in terms of the amount of CalFresh that we are redeeming at our farmers markets. So the other thing that we know is that over the past several years that farmers markets have been growing at a rapid rate, serving more communities. So this chart now shows just for our markets that have been open for 5 years, the CalFresh redemptions in those markets. So this is the equivalent in the retail world to same-store sales. So you can see that even in those markets that have been operating consistently, they are seeing a piece of this increase as well. We also believe that the CalFresh and Market Match are important for the low-income families, the CalFresh recipients that are shopping in our markets. So we are partners with the Wholesome Wave, a national nonprofit that operates a program similar to Market Match that they call the Double Value Coupon Program. And in their survey of double coupon value customers, they found that 86 reported that as a result of having an incentive that encouraged them to use their SNAP benefit at a farmer's market, 86% of them increased their consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables. And 90% agreed or strongly agreed that the amount of fresh fruits and vegetables they bought at the farmer's market made a big difference in their family diets. So we feel that being able to offer these incentives is not only good for the market because it increases sales for our local farmers, but it's good for the families that are shopping there because they're able to increase their consumption of fruits and vegetables. So there are a number of factors that we think are behind this increase. The number of farmers markets statewide that accept CalFresh EBT are increasing. So the more that happens, the more that we are able to get the word out that farmers markets are a place where CalFresh benefits are accepted. Word of mouth advertising in the farmers market world continues to be the most effective. So the more that we have people spreading the right information that they can use CalFresh benefits at a farmers market, the better that it is for us. But we have seen over the past several years, even as statewide CalFresh enrollments have gone up, that the pace of spending of CalFresh spending at our farmers markets is growing faster than the rate of CalFresh in general. So we know that there is something else happening here. We've also seen that the pace of CalFresh acceptance at or redemptions at our farmers markets is actually growing faster even than the increase in overall customers that we're seeing. And we think a big part of this is some of our new outreach strategies that we have been employing to help get the word out. So we've tried a number of different strategies that I want to highlight some of them for you here. The first is paid advertising. So this is mass media advertising that we've done in papers such as the San Jose Mercury News, the Contra Costa Times, to get the word out generally that CalFresh can be accepted at farmers markets and that the Market Match program exists to offer that incentive. So it's good in terms of raising awareness. But part of our drawback and the reason that we have pulled away from that this year is that it is somewhat expensive and you're not targeting the CalFresh population. You are hitting the population in general. Another strategy that we have employed is to partner with local social service agencies to include information about farmers markets, CalFresh, and Market Match in mailings that they send to CalFresh recipients. So the benefit there is that it's very well targeted because we know everyone that will be receiving that mailer is a CalFresh recipient. But some of the drawbacks there is that the mailers can be very large in number, which can have some increased costs. And sometimes depending on the timing of the mailer, it can be a challenge since if they want to send a mailer out in March, for instance, and a number of our markets do not open until May or June, it's hard to expect that someone will hold on to a postcard they receive in the mail for 2 months until their local farmers market is open. We're also doing a lot of outreach at community-based events. This is a great strategy to combine our CalFresh and Market Match outreach with other health-related and sustainable agriculture outreach programs that we're running. It can be done at relatively low cost. We are moving this year also to engage more volunteers in this process to partner up with our paid staff to allow us to accommodate more requests to be present at events. The drawback is that it's sometimes hard to know how well the event at which you're participating is targeting the CalFresh or CalFresh eligible populations. And so sometimes it's not an effective outreach location for CalFresh or Market Match, though it can be a good outreach strategy or location to talk about other health benefits. And finally, we are conducting a series of nutrition education classes. We partner with local schools, community centers, senior centers, other community-based sites that have access to people who are CalFresh eligible or they know are enrolled in CalFresh so that we can be effectively targeting low-income communities, food desert areas, or places that are in close conjunction to a farmer's market, but where we feel that perhaps the farmer's market is not seeing as much CalFresh redemptions as we would expect given the neighborhood demographics. Well, it gives us an opportunity to target that outreach message to a place where we think it has an opportunity to be effective. So it can be somewhat expensive to equip, but we have a benefit that we've been doing this for a number of years, so over time we've been able to build up a store of equipment. But some of the items, such as what you see in the slide, the overhead mirror, is somewhat expensive to purchase and can be large and bulky to move around. Also, depending on the site, it can be a challenge to do a cooking demonstration that involves any type of heat. So at a lot of locations we are doing demonstrations of salads or smoothies because we're at a place where we can't actually do any real cooking. Of all of these, probably the nutrition education classes are the ones that we feel are the most effective because it gives us the most concentrated time to work with a small group of people. We can not only speak to them, but also through the opportunity to answer their questions. We often get people who may not be comfortable speaking in the midst of the group, but are interested in talking to our instructors afterwards to talk about their personal needs or their personal questions. So it's a great way to reach them through that strategy. So that's a very brief overview of some of what we have been doing. I welcome you to check out our website. You will find other information there, including some surveys that we have done of farmers market shoppers in general that can be a good addition to some of the other material that Heather was mentioning earlier. And I will be available for questions at the appointed time, but I'll turn it back over to you, Heather.
Thanks, Alan. We've actually got quite a few questions come in during this segment, so I'd like to start off with one of them now. We had a question from Lisa, and she asked, when connecting with local farmers to participate in farmers markets, what are some strategies you can suggest to connect and meet with them? And I figured as a market management organization you would have some ideas for that.
I think one thing that's important to remember is from the farmer's perspective, while they are very generous people, that they participate in farmers markets as a part of their core business strategy. So for them, they want to be sure that if they're going to come into a farmer's market, especially someone who might be traveling an hour or more to get there, that they feel that they have a good opportunity to sell the products that they're bringing. So some of the things that is good to tell them is what is it that you are doing to either promote the market or to make the market accessible to the community that surrounds the market. So if you have a program in place to accept SNAP, CalFresh, mention that to the farmer. If you're doing outreach for CalFresh or for in other ways, mention some of those things as well. Those are all great ways to let a farmer know that you have their interests in mind and that you are doing everything that you can to ensure that you're getting people into the farmer's market.
That's great. Lisa also suggested, and I mentioned as well, folks can connect with their local farm bureaus or their Future Farmers of America or agricultural commissioners meetings. Do you have any other resources that you think at the local level are good places for people to find out who their farmers are and what they might be interested in?
One strategy that I would suggest is if you have a day of the week and a location in mind, is to visit other nearby farmers markets that are operating on that day. So for instance, if you know you want to do a Tuesday morning market, go to the closest Tuesday morning market to that site and bring a flyer about your market and introduce yourself to the market manager and then talk to the farmers. Because what we find, and one of the advantages that we have of being an umbrella organization operating a number of markets, is that for a farmer that may be coming in from the Central Valley or from a long distance, that for them it can be convenient to be able to do more than one market in a day. So they may drop off at one site and then drive to a second, so that that trip that they're making in from the Central Valley, their transportation time and their fuel costs are supporting more than one market. So that can be a good way of talking to them, saying, do you have the capacity? Would you be interested in also doing another market in the afternoon when you're done with your morning market, or to also drop someone off here on your way to this market?
That's a great tip. And just one last question for you, Alan. We had a question from Laura, and she asked, how is your Market Match funded?
So Market Match is funded primarily for the operational side through Roots of Change. And they have received a grant from the California Department of Agriculture Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. So that supports some of our outreach and implementation strategies. For the incentives, we partner with our sister organization, Fresh Approach, and we are actively fundraising on a regular basis to fund those incentives. So we are very fortunate right now to have funding from Kaiser Permanente, from Eileen Fisher, from Wholesome Wave, that are all funding the Market Match in various locations around the Bay Area. It's also something that we feel has a lot of appeal to in terms of individual fundraising. So if you're working in a small community and have a lot of community-based support for your market, perhaps you can try a strategy of suggesting to people that they round up on a purchase and make a small donation, and with the idea that all of those donations will go to help support something like Market Match to ensure that others in the community have equal access to that farmer's market.
Wow, that's a great tip, Alan. I love that idea. So the Network for a Healthy California also has some resources for improving access to markets, and Roseanne is back again to tell you a little bit more.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, to promote the farmers markets, some of the best places to promote farmers markets, especially for the SNAP-Ed interventions, are at schools, WIC offices, our federally qualified health centers, low-income work sites, and CalFresh offices. Some of the promotion tools that we have that are available for our funded partners to promote farmers markets are flyers, posters, radio remotes, newspaper ads mainly to identify events, educational events at the farmers markets, social media. We have our cookbooks in terms of being able to have giveaways, recipes in terms of being able to give away, tip sheets, prize wheels, tents for projects to use, and banners. So SNAP-Ed funds can be used for the following with respect to nutrition education and health promotion. They can be used for educating and empowering SNAP recipients and low-income persons about the availability of fruits and vegetables at the farmers market. They can be used to provide cooking demos, shopping tours of the market, use point-of-purchase marketing or signage to promote the nutritional benefits of fruits and vegetables, and promoting physical activity or wellness at the farmers market. You'll see many farmers markets with Zumba. SNAP funds can also be used for the following food access and structural changes for farmers markets: engaging farmers or growers to sell their produce at farmers markets, engaging food policy council or community coalitions to create demand for farmers markets in low-income census tracts or on the grounds of organizations that serve low-income SNAP-Ed populations. So those are some of those alternative sites that I had referred to earlier. Conducting community assessments of the quality, the variety, and affordability of the produce options at farmers markets, consulting with farmers market operators on which seasonal, nutritious options to sell, provide input on where to locate farmers market and hours of operation, and also to raise funds outside of SNAP-Ed to provide a bonus incentive that could increase SNAP recipients' purchasing powers to buy the fruits and vegetables. What farmers markets can't be used for, and I think this is probably important also, is purchasing or operating the point-of-sale device that swipes the EBT cards, paying for the actual cash value bonus incentive at the farmer's market, producing any marketing materials without an approved nutrition message, and supplanting the farmer's market nutrition program itself. So that would be like the farmer's market salary. That's not allowable. The permit, the actual participating and assisting with the permit process is not allowable. Now, folks can spend research time identifying locations for farmers markets to bring a market to a specific low-income neighborhood. And people can sit on food policy councils or CNAPs to assist with bringing a farmer's market to a low-income area. So hopefully that was helpful in terms of what's allowable and what isn't. And then I have some the materials that we've used in conjunction with farmers market activities. We have Harvest of the Month, which is available. Here's the website link, www.harvestofthemonth.com. We have also at the network our retail program, which provides a lot of point-of-sale devices. We have specific to farmers market the We Accept EBT poster. This is not Department of the networks, but this is a poster that's available through the Department of Social Services. Materials for promoting and using at farmers markets are available through the network online ordering system. In order to access the network online ordering system, please contact Laura Webster if you do not already have a passcode to get you an allocation. Laura can get you an allocation for materials. She's an online ordering inventory specialist. She can be reached at area code 916-449-5376, and there is her email address. Most of our funded partners that have been with us a while already have an online ordering allocation and number. And to contact us at the Network for a Healthy California, our main line is area code 916-449-5400. My number is area code 916-449-5403, and that's my email address, roseanne.stevenson@cdph.ca.gov. Thank you.
Thanks, Roseanne. That was really a helpful overview, and I think some of the questions that I've seen come in may have been answered by the information you just provided. I did have one interesting question from Catherine that I wanted to share with you. So Catherine asks, if farmers markets are not located in a qualifying census tract that's the closest farmers market to a population that they're working with, but there is one in a qualifying census tract, let's say, that's farther away, can they promote the market that's closer to the actual SNAP recipients? Just a sort of good question about what qualifies as a targeted market.
I think in terms of the promotions and the interventions, those need to be done in the qualifying census tract. But obviously, if something is closer to a community, the promotion or the interventions can't be done on SNAP-Ed time, but it makes more sense for the individual to go to that market, if that makes sense. So SNAP-Ed can pay for interventions and promotions in those qualifying areas.
Yeah, and Roseanne, what do you, I mean, one of the things that came to my mind when I read this question is there are certainly activities that promote markets that happen outside of market space. So for example, Alan gave an example of cooking classes. It looks like that's the kind of thing that you could hold at a senior center or a school that happens to be in a qualifying census tract, and maybe you're talking about a market that's nearby that recipients might be able to go to. Does that sound like something that would be in line with SNAP-Ed requirements?
Yes, and then you also, again, you can promote that specific class with SNAP-Ed funds, but it's more about you know, what you can actually do. Of course, an agency has other funds, you know, funding that they could promote the closer farmers market using that funding. And then it also depends on what is promotion. I mean, is promotion, what is the amount of money? I mean, if all somebody's doing is handing out a flyer, then that's a little bit different from doing an actual intervention.
Great, thanks. I know there's a lot of nuance to this question about qualifying areas and qualifying markets, so I think we're going to come back to that at the end. But I wanted to talk a little bit about policies, which are also an important component to creating successful markets that will serve low-income shoppers and their needs. So even though it seems like we all think about farmers markets as a good thing, they bring all these community benefits, they support our local food shed, and we should be expanding or supporting them, I hear the same troubles in communities that I work with across the country. So you have issues about farmers markets being too expensive or time-consuming to open, and that's often due to the fact that markets are regulated as what we might call temporary uses or not at all, and require permits that are costly or take a long time to secure, and that may not even last a whole market season. Or maybe markets aren't located where it's convenient for the community to access them. Maybe there's a market downtown, but it's hard for residents to get there in the weekend. Or maybe there's one in a park on one side of the city, but other neighborhoods are missing out. Again, zoning regulations can put real limits on where markets can locate. And even when markets are geographically accessible, they may not be accessible to low-income shoppers if they're not accepting SNAP payments or WIC coupons. If cities aren't creating market-specific regulations in their permits, they're missing an opportunity to tie WIC and SNAP acceptance into their own local approval process. And last but not least, markets may be vulnerable to displacement by other uses, especially when they aren't specifically defined and allowed in zoning code. So that parking lot may seem like it's not going anywhere until the owner wants to put up a new condo. Finding long-term locations for markets is another role for land use policies. And as a reminder, creating local policies for markets can help address the challenges I just outlined in two major ways. Policy development can be done as part of a broad community conversation with community members, stakeholders, and local leaders. So actually the development of the policy itself can help surface issues and remove barriers. And then creating consistent policies help ease regulatory burdens on markets, but also allow for consistent implementation, enforcement, and institutionalization of change. And we've seen communities from Los Angeles County to Portland, Oregon, to Minneapolis and Miami, and a whole host of other communities that are developing land use policies that specifically address farmers markets. I wanted to focus on one community in San Jose, and that showed a really interesting progression of thinking about farmers markets as really a tool for increasing low-income access. So in 2011, the City of San Jose adopted policy goals in their citywide general plan to increase access to residents to healthy food, including supporting for farmers markets. And I'll just point out in this policy, they specifically committed to ensuring markets would be accessible by transit and for finding opportunities to locate markets on public land and in places that are more accessible to underserved low-income residents. To implement those goals, the San Jose City Council then prioritized streamlining farmers market zoning. And it's helpful to think about zoning as telling a story. Like any good story, it needs to convey who, what, and where something is taking place. One innovative measure that San Jose took from the pages of Minneapolis's zoning code was to create a distinct definition of a small certified market that's allowed by right. There's no need for a zoning permit in most areas of the city. For larger markets with more than 15 agricultural vendors, they'll still need to apply for a special use permit, but it's less burdensome than the previous system, which was the conditional use permit, and still allows review by planning department staff. Another way zoning regulates the what of markets is by setting certain operating standards that markets must comply with. San Jose's new code requires markets to accept SNAP payment and WIC coupons, as well as the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. The market either needs to manage the system or accept these forms and accept the forms of payment themselves, or make space at the market for a third party. So it's enhancing what was already adopted under state law. The where of a zoning code can also improve access. As part of the zoning update, San Jose wanted to expand potential locations where markets could operate throughout the city, including in residential neighborhoods. However, they also wanted to make sure that markets occurred at sites that would minimize any potential conflict with neighbors. So they specify in the policy that allowed sites are schools, libraries, community centers, and religious assemblies, very much in line with what we've been talking about in terms of places where we can do SNAP promotion. There are a lot of good reasons to include farmers markets in local policies, and going through a holistic and deliberate planning process can highlight opportunities to partner with institutions, to target markets to specific neighborhoods, and strategically place markets and create community gathering spaces that improve food access. So with that, I'm going to take a few more questions. We've got about 5 more minutes left. The first question that I wanted to respond to is, we had a question from Betty who asked about certified farmers markets and what's the difference between certified markets and non-certified markets. So just as a quick reminder, and by the way, you can always check out our fact sheet on this topic, certified markets are exempt from some regulations that other food retail establishments have to follow under our state food retail code. So they get some special regulatory easing on behalf of being a farmer's market. But they must be California farmers who are selling their own product, and the agricultural vendors themselves need to be certified as well. So the downside of certification is that some market managers and farmers may find that they don't want to go through the process of becoming certified. The upside is you get special exemptions and protection under our food retail code. I mentioned that you can't sell T-shirts in a certified farmers market. Well, there's a little bit of a nuance to that, because many market managers will set up a certified area of their market that's just produce vendors, and then they'll have another area of their market that might have other types of vendors who are selling crafts or flowers or other types of things. And I believe, Alan, you probably have markets that look like this with the Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so there is some nuance to that. There's some benefits to being certified. I like to encourage markets to become certified. Not all markets maybe are ready to do that right off the bat, but it is a distinction that's important to think about. And if you're looking for a list of non-certified markets, I'd encourage you to check out that USDA directory that I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. Even though that list, as I mentioned, may not be comprehensive, it will also include markets that aren't listed as specifically a California certified market. Let me see what else we have here. I'm not sure, Alan, this question came in about senior farmers market coupons. Have you, at the Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association, worked with senior centers to combine farmers markets at a senior center in particular and focused on increasing access for seniors that way?
We have not done a farmers market at a senior center, part because the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program coupons, the amount is so little that it's not enough really to sustain a market over the course of a season. But we do work with the local agencies to encourage them to either do distributions at the market or to try to set up special events that may be going on at the market around the same time that the coupons are being distributed, so that as seniors are receiving the coupons and being encouraged to come to a farmer's market, from those weeks that they come, they are more likely to find perhaps a cooking demonstration or something else, some other types of educational programs that they can also benefit from.
We have a few more questions about using SNAP funds to educate cities and counties about zoning changes and about using a school that has 50% of their students accepting free and reduced lunch. I'd like to follow up with anyone who didn't get that question answered separately, because we're out of time for today. You should feel free, we may contact you directly, or you should definitely feel free to be in touch directly with anyone who presented on today's webinar. So now that you're ready to go out and start talking to your market managers and gathering your community input, I wanted to let you know about some great resources. So be sure to check out ChangeLab Solutions Guide on Model Land Use Policies for Farmers Markets, and it includes a lot of case studies, including more about San Jose, Minneapolis, and Portland. And of course, the National Farmers Market Coalition is always worth a second plug. They're really a fantastic resource. I definitely encourage you all to check them out. For more information on anything discussed in this webinar, you can contact Betty Sun or Lisa Tadlock with the Network for a Healthy California. And as always, ChangeLab Solutions is a nonpartisan organization that does not provide legal advice. And on behalf of Alan, Roseanne, and everyone at the network, I really wanted to say thank you all for joining in, and be sure to check out the other webinars in this series. Thank you so much.